Hello and welcome to this National Center for Research Methods short tutorial on using smartphones in multimodal qualitative research. In this presentation, I will first outline what multimodal qualitative research is, what its main offerings are, and why researchers should consider adopting such pragmatic and creative techniques. I will then share some examples of smartphone-assisted multimodal designs. Then, I will discuss using smartphones in research involving hard-to-reach or marginalized populations, including some distinct risks and design adaptations to mitigate these. Finally, I will share some practical strategies for writing ethics and funding applications involving smartphones. Altogether, this tutorial seeks to inspire students and researchers to be bold and creative in combining different data collection techniques to generate rich and authentic insights into a range of phenomena. Smartphones are near ubiquitous and boast several advantages, such as the ability to capture experiences in real time, gather diverse data formats such as text, group interactions online, audio, video, and also overcome geographical limitations. An important facet of smartphones as research tools is their capability for multimodal data collection. Multimodal research, also sometimes called multi-method or pluralistic research, involves the collection and integration of different data formats such as text, images, audio, and video to gain a more comprehensive, multifaceted understanding of a phenomenon. Data could be gathered concurrently or sequentially. In a concurrent design, you would ask participants to generate various types of data, such as text, videos, voice memos, at the same time in response to a prompt or spontaneously. In contrast, in a sequential design, a participant would log data in direct response to an earlier entry. For example, after an initial text entry revealing low mood the day before, a participant may be asked to record a short video reflecting on what caused this and how they responded to those events. This can trigger deeper, more deliberate reflections. The choice of design will depend on how involved you'd want to be as a researcher during the logging phase and how flexible and demanding you'd like the logging instructions to be. It would also depend, of course, on the functionalities of the app or platform being used. For example, to explore how asylum seekers create a sense of community and belonging, one may combine conversation analysis of group chats, thematic analysis of images, of community settings and activities, and geospatial data tracking participants' mobility patterns. Other exemplary applications would be understanding how frontline healthcare workers cope with stress during public health emergencies by collecting diary and video logs, exploring the role of music in mental health recovery among discharged mental health patients using audio diaries and audio elicitation interviews, understanding how formerly homeless individuals perceive their neighborhoods using mobile phone generated images, diary logs, and group chat data. Regardless of the timing of data collection, multimodal data can yield layered, complementary insights into participants' internal states, relationships, occupations, and others. They can also be used to triangulate or corroborate findings gathered in person or at different time points. Last but not least, multimodal logging offers greater autonomy to participants and an enhanced ability to self-express. This is especially important for research populations that have historically been marginalized, misunderstood, or overlooked. To conduct effective multimodal research, however, we should be aware of the relative strengths and limitations of different data modalities. For example, while participant-generated videos provide rich, evocative contextual data, they also increase anonymity and privacy risks and raise the analytic complexity. There's always a trade-off between the pros and afforded by different functionalities and their associated drawbacks and resource requirements and constraints. There are some other vital considerations when designing this type of study. In particular, are the research area or phenomenon suitable for a multimodal inquiry? What aspects or context of these phenomena are you interested in exploring using such methods? Why does this new knowledge gleaned from this approach outweigh the added risks? Are the data formats chosen appropriate for the participants' digital literacy, preferences, and circumstances? Have you prepared ethics protocols for each specific data modality? Do you possess the required knowledge and time to integrate different types of data into a coherent analysis? How would you reconcile these epistemologically? All of these considerations should be taken into account when designing multimodal qualitative research. Smartphones are often viewed as more engaging, user-friendly, and intimate by research participants compared to traditional qualitative methods such as interviews and focus groups, which can be seen as too formal, inconvenient, and artificial. Therefore, smartphone-assisted research can be highly valuable for engaging with hard-to-reach populations who may face distinct barriers to participation in research, such as stigma, lack of time, or limited access. Examples of such populations are street-involved youth, destitute individuals, ethno-racial minorities, and people with disabilities. Smartphones can help lower some of these barriers. In my own study with people who are homeless and have serious mental illness, I used a smartphone app-based diary. At the end of the study, participants described the diary as fun, cool, engaging, and even enriching. Interestingly, some of them used the diary to deepen their appreciation of the progress made in their housing situation and their recovery. In other words, it prompted self-reflection and gratitude. To use them effectively, however, researchers should adapt protocols to suit participants' needs, priorities, and circumstances. They should also have a good understanding of the target population's smartphone use patterns and attitudes. These are the essential ingredients for truly user-centered design. Now, the following strategies help maximize engagement, minimize dropouts, prevent exploitation, and ultimately protect participants' well-being and safety. Create instructions and provide training in simple, jargon-free language. Enable multiple data formats to accommodate participants with different literacy levels and disabilities. For example, enabling speech-to-text transcriptions is particularly valuable for those who have difficulty typing or reading. In my own study, participants could make smartphone diary entries using text, audio, images, or video. I believed images would offer a more immediate and intuitive way for participants to communicate difficult or overwhelming emotions and experiences, such as financial hardship and substance use struggles. I discovered that, alongside images, several participants preferred making short audio logs rather than typing. I also found audio logs carried rich contextual data, such as background noises, and information about participants' movements and physical exertions and social context, which was all highly informative. To prevent oversharing, that is, the inadvertent sharing of highly sensitive information by participants that is outside of the scope of the study, have clear topics and questions. And to remind participants that they can skip questions, withhold highly personal information, and drop out at any time. It is important to remember that multimodal data collection can exert a high physical and emotional toll on participants. Participants must not feel under pressure to participate. Life changes course, and many participants' lives will be highly dynamic and unpredictable, and their availability and priorities may change. For example, during the diary logging phase, some of my participants had health emergencies while others got relocated, ending their participation. An important question in such situations is whether to keep the data those participants had already shared. There should be a protocol for this. Smartphone designs should be flexible and unintrusive to reflect this. Researchers should be acutely attentive to changing circumstances and respond accordingly. Setting upper limits for the number of data entries is another good strategy. In my study, I did not set such limits, and one participant ended up generating more than 70 images, which was very challenging to manage. Participants may also be living in precarious conditions and be vulnerable to abuse or exploitation or threats to their safety and well-being. Logging must not place them at an increased risk or compromise their safety. Finally, to promote retention, be sure to stress and remind participants their voices matter. Marginalized individuals may feel that they have nothing worthy to say. It is our responsibility as researchers to uphold their dignity and amplify their voices. For instance, in my own study, I stressed to participants that this is their own life and they're the experts and they're being asked to allow us to walk in their shoes for a week. I asked them to log even details of their day-to-day activities that they might think others might find uninteresting or banal, so long as the entries reflect their daily lives, values, and priorities. On this final slide, I would like to highlight some concrete strategies and prompts to guide the crafting of ethics and funding applications involving smartphones. Demonstrate value for money. For example, reducing travel and transcription costs, or in terms of using existing devices and freely available apps such as WhatsApp. Highlight the potential of multimodal smartphone designs to generate authentic, evocative, and actionable data and insights. These can be disseminated to the wider public and to stakeholders digitally and during in-person events such as exhibitions and community conversations and policy dialogues. Consider connectivity issues. For example, does the app work offline? And plan accordingly, for example, by supplying data packages. Next, provide incentives that are proportionate to how long and how demanding the study is. Specify all different types of data to be collected, such as textual, visual, audio, and geospatial data, together with protocols for granular data management of each data type. If using a third-party app, be sure to review the provider's data storage and security policies and ensure relevant agreements are in place, such as data processing agreement. Lower the risk of misrepresentation by involving participants in the data analysis. Ensure that they are compensated accordingly. In my own study, I would have had difficulties interpreting many of the images as they carried hidden and symbolic meanings, which were only revealed to me by the participants themselves during the photo elicitation interviews. Thank you for listening.